Hey, 4C divers! Thank you for tuning in. It is October 13th, 2022, and we are coming to you live here at the 4C Pompano store. And guys, we have a fantastic presentation tonight. We're going to be talking about dive scooters, particularly the BlackTip scooters that we sell here at 4C. So you guys buckle up. We have a great presentation and some demos behind me, and we've got great presenters. But before we turn it over to them, let's go ahead and do a check-in. Everyone say hello in the comment section. We want to know where you're listening in from. Give us a thumbs up, give us a smiley face or a heart emoji to let us know that you're enjoying tonight's presentation. Also in that comment section, you can write any comments that you might have or any questions that you might have for the guest presenters. And the other thing too is you want to go to www.force-e.com, go to that event tab, scroll down, find tonight's presentation, and go ahead and register before 6:45. Guys, if you want to get in on the raffle, tonight's raffle is something we've never done before. We are raffling off a boat trip on one of the dive boats here in South Florida area, a 2-tank dive. And you can go on this boat trip after you buy one of your new scooters. So you can go explore the wrecks and reefs here in South Florida. So make sure you go to that website and make sure you register online to get put into the raffle, which we'll do after the presentation. So guys, hello, thanks for tuning in. We appreciate it. We love you guys. 4C divers are always the best. If you don't know, October is our tech month. So we have a lot of things that we have planned for the month that are tech related. We have tech courses, we have tech dives, we have presentations, and we also have a demo day coming up next Saturday at the pool in Del Rey with some of our tech instructors. We also have next Tuesday at our Boca Raton location, we're doing a tech social. So come on by. We're going to have beer and we're going to hang out with some tech divers and talk about technical diving and training and gear that you use for it. And if you are new to tech diving or you've been in it for a while, but you want some new gear or techniques that you maybe are searching for, come in. Our pros are going to be there to give you some great information. All right. So we have behind me, I've got here in the store, we've got Jimmy Ganowski, and then we also have you're in Washington, and we've got Sierra Moses, and they're going to introduce themselves and tell you a little about themselves and how they got into diving. So why don't you go first, Sierra?
Hi, I am Sierra Moses. I am the sales and customer service representative here at DiveX. I have been working for DiveX for a little over 5 years, so lots of experience, lots of different scooters that we've gone through and things like that. So I can talk about all those things. And then I just got into the dive industry because it's something fun to do. I don't but I don't get to dive a lot because it's too cold here for me. So
come to Florida.
I know.
All right, we got Jimmy back here. Jimmy, introduce yourself.
Hi guys, my name is Jimmy. Most of you guys probably know me from the boats. I also run Florida Technical Diving and captain a lot of the boats in the area. And we're here to talk about some of the scooters. I mainly do tech diving in the area, but these are also great for recreational diving as well. And I'm looking forward to showing you guys how to use these scooters and talk about the fun things that we could do with the scooters. I mean, we'll jump from wreck to wreck to wreck. I think right now we're up to 9 wrecks on one dive with the scooters, so it's a lot of fun.
Awesome. Okay, guys, give me a second here. I'm bringing in my PowerPoint, and we're going to go and bring this. So real quick, you're probably wondering, what is a scooter? No, it's not the scooter that you're seeing in this picture. We don't take the scooter and go swimming with it. No, a scooter is called a diver propulsion vehicle, or we call it a DPV. So if you hear us using those terminologies during the presentation, that's what we are referring to. It's also known as an underwater propulsion vehicle, sea scooter, or underwater scooter. What are they? They are a machine with a waterproof housing that holds an electric motor and one or more propellers. There's various versions of a scooter, an underwater scooter. So definitely, do your research, see which ones are out there. But we're going to be talking about the BlackTip scooter from DiveX tonight, and they're going to get into more about what they look like and how they operate in just a minute. So first of all, you should always go back in history. I always like to give you guys a little history of the dive equipment when we do one of these seminars. What you're seeing is a picture of a old DPV. Most of the DPVs in the past were used during wartime, specifically during World War II. These underwater devices function similarly to the ones that we're using now in the military. Their purpose was to get soldiers close enough to enemy ships in record time. And these DPVs were literally made from torpedo parts. So as you can see in this picture, it looks like it was a torpedo casing. They added and welded new stuff onto it so they could have a diver hold on with those handles, and then his legs, that thing in the middle went between their legs so that they could hold on and go. So really funny. And obviously these devices have changed over time, and they look a little more high tech now and a little more streamlined. But yeah, that's the history of DPVs. They were being used back in World War II. So who can use a DPV? Anybody can. Snorkelers, recreational divers, technical divers, a whole range of people can use these because you can cover large distances in short periods of time without exerting yourself at all. All you need to do is hold on tight to that DPV and it'll do all the heavy lifting for you. All right, so how do you choose a DPV? That's why you have us, you have 4C, and you have gear reviews to make sure that you are picking one that's going to work for your type of diving. So here at 4C, we carry the BlackTip scooters, and we've got Jimmy and Sierra here to give you more information about these scooters and what you can really do to exceed your diving sites. All right, so handing it back over to you guys. So the BlackTip scooters by DiveX, you guys have 3 models. You guys want to explain what models they are?
Yeah, so the Dive Extras BlackTip series is one of our newest series. We used to only do kind of high-end military grade scooters. We knew we were missing a market for our recreational, free divers, people who really wanted a backup scooter that was still good quality, but maybe not, the one that they've invested in for a long time, or, set a big budget for to have one. And also just, getting scooters into lots of people's hands that still, could be for a cave diver, still be for a recreational diver, still be for a tech diver. So the BlackTip, it comes in 3 variations. The base model was actually the original design. There was never really an idea of expanding on that. And we brought the BlackTip, what we now call the travel version, to DEMA. And it was a hit, to say the least. And at the opening price point, we just couldn't really keep them. And we also couldn't stop the flow of emails asking for us to provide 2 things. One, that what came out of the box, kind of trim, buoyant, neutral, like all of our other DPVs that we've made in the past. And second was something that had like some longevity to it. And then that's how the tech and the exploration versions were born. Yeah. Jimmy, is he there?
Yep, we're here.
Oh.
He's gonna point those out.
So we have the travel version here only, but they all do use the same tail section.
Correct.
So
Yes.
they all use the same tail section, and then we have the travel version here, which is this tube. And the tech tube's a little bit longer than this, about the size of this one, the CUDA X here. And then the exploration is about twice the size because it holds four 12 amp hour batteries. The tech and the travel hold the same amount of batteries and essentially have the same runtime, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah. So the performance in the tech and the travel are completely the same. There's no performance advantages to the tech over the travel. It's really just for the diver that may be going from like fresh to salt a lot, or just someone who just doesn't want to mess with buoyancy, doesn't want to mess with being in trim. You know, those cave divers, obviously that's really, really important. We don't want to, you know, damage any of those caves that we're in, you know, things like that. So it becomes, you know, much more important than just kind of, you know, someone who wants to have 5 for them and their buddies is very recreational, or even, you know, the person that's maybe a little bit more comfortable, tech savvy, things like that, had DPVs before, they're comfortable kind of messing with trim and weights. You know, the Travel's been a great version for those. But the tech is definitely, you know, it's nice that it comes, you know, pre-weighted, and then it also has some weights that you can remove and stuff like that, to be able to make sure that it's kind of custom to wherever you're diving. Obviously, the salt density is going to be different in, you know, let's just say Washington to Florida, and then let's say somewhere like Israel, right, where it's like, you know, Red Seas, things like that. So we get them as close as we can, and then obviously everyone has to do some adjustments, especially once you start putting accessories and stuff on them.
Awesome. All right, I'm going to go ahead and advance the slide. Okay, buoyancy. Who wants to take on buoyancy?
So we touched a little about buoyancy and trim, and I find that the travel is negative, but you can add a little bit of styrofoam and whatnot to make it buoyant in itself. And the tech does trim out very nicely when straight out of the box when you bring it into the water. The travel I find is a little bit more, well, travel friendly, obviously, because it's smaller, and it's seems slightly more maneuverable in the water. But like I said before, you get the same power out of each one of them. So if you want a little bit more of a tube to trim out, if you're mounting a camera or anything to it, it's kind of nice to have that extra space on the scooter itself.
Batteries.
So lithium fuel power batteries. So these run on drill batteries, actually. DeWalt's, or there's some like knockoff DeWalt's that run just as good as the DeWalt batteries that I found, and they're travel friendly. So you can go on the airplane with this. You can take your scooter on the airplane, travel with it, go wherever you'd like. Sierra, you want to take that any further?
Yeah. So we did, you know, using DeWalt batteries, you can, a variation of things, right? So they're available in pretty much everywhere. And then you can choose to have like a DeWalt style, which, like Jimmy said, is travel friendly. I know that a lot of people want to fight us on that, but if you really look into the dynamics of that, if you use them correctly, and you use what they call the travel clip. It's a red clip that actually separates the 9 and the 12 amp hour batteries into 3 different sections. It's going to keep them safe. And if TSA wants to be really, really strict on you, they essentially don't want you to have a fresh battery off of the charge. So you try to have it at like 1 light. So if you're familiar with those batteries, that's kind of what they're saying. 1 light, and then with the separator in there. When I travel with mine, I put mine in like a big clear Ziploc, and I put what they call like the MSDS, which is the safety data sheet, just in there. I put 2 in a bag at each time, and I have never been stopped. I fly pretty often, being with Dive Extras ever since we've had scooters. Even before the BlackTip series, we were still using power tool batteries before then. So it's something, you know, I've had years of experience traveling with. I know that Jimmy travels with them internationally. You know, we have a lot of that. We have a lot of international dealers are coming in and out too. And there is a battery that they do. Oh, this is a big question. There's a battery that's like the 15 amp hours now. Of course, it would be fantastic if they could fit. Unfortunately, with a added length and a little bit taller, they do not fit. So there's not like a, you know, there's nothing they can kind of clip to or anything that helps them fit either. But you do want to look for a DCB interface. That's going to give you the right plug-in port. So there is some batteries like Milwaukee, things like that don't fit just because they just don't have the same interface. It's, you know, trying to plug your phone into someone else's charger, just, you know, just doesn't work. So that's kind of how that is. But there is definitely options of off brands. They just don't have that travel friendly ability. But usually with the cost of them, it's actually really nice to have a backup pair.
Yeah. I have a few actually. The LED display. You want to talk about the LED displays here?
Yeah. So the LED display, is fairly new, and there's a couple features to it. One of them is going to be battery life. Once you like get on the trigger and then like let off, you'll give it a couple seconds, and it kind of lets you know where you're at. It does have, lithium has a pretty high curve on it, so if it sits for a long time, it won't be super accurate. You do want a reading like almost right off the trigger. And again, you're going to want to, dive in your safety of thirds and things like that. So there is 4 levels to where that battery goes. A really nice indication too is even if you're not seeing it on your display, if you feel your scooter cutting out at all, that does mean we're getting close to battery life. It's almost there. There it goes. The other thing about the LED displays, it's going to let you know what gear you're in, which is really nice. Most scooters are going to start in 3rd gear unless you have adjusted those settings. And they're going to go 2 clicks up, 1 click down. And that is just the Dive Extras configuration. And again, unless you program that differently, which I know that we're also going to cover.
Trigger and speed. So we kind of touched on that a little bit. You put the batteries in. Double click starts you on speed 3. Double click again, that shifts up. Keep shifting up. It goes all the way up to speed 8, I believe.
Yes.
Right, speed 8. And then single click will shift down. So you release and then click again, and you shift down, and then it goes all the way down to speed 1. It's a good safety feature that if you completely release your hand from the trigger, the scooter just stops. So you're not going to have a runaway scooter or anything like that. There's no way that you can get yourself in a situation. If you're having an issue, you just let go of the trigger, and you're not going to go flying with the scooter because it's not going to keep pulling you through the water.
Yeah. And that's a feature that's been new on the BlackTip compared to any other Dive Extra scooter. We've always had a trigger lock, but knowing that this scooter was, maybe for some more new divers or if this was for new divers and things like that, there is no trigger lock on them. There is also a speed migrate, which is really nice. So you're not always going all the way down to 1 if you were in 5. So that'll kind of slowly come down as you let off the trigger. So that's been a nice feature as well.
Yep. Did you guys mention like what is the horsepower? Is there horsepower with scooters underwater?
There is. I love horsepower.
Or I guess not.
Yeah. So let me just get kind of in here.
Kind of be like burn time.
Yeah. So if you're gonna go just let's see, continuous max speed, you're gonna be at about 250 or 200 feet per minute. Boost mode, which is 8th gear, which is a 6-minute max, is going to be like 238. So it's not, and that's is the tech and travel versions. So it's not as fast as some of our other ones, but it's still it's still plenty quick. It's definitely not. I mean, you can tow a buddy with it, So and you're still definitely getting around.
You're moving through the water, all right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the safe start. Safe start, you double click and it doesn't start right away. It takes a little bit to get started up, and then as it goes, it's like 2-3 seconds, and then it'll kick into gear just to make sure there's nothing in the prop or anything like that. Or what other good features of the safe start is there?
It's also an indication that you're in the water and that it's feeling some resistance. You definitely maybe just to dry your scooter off really quickly and make sure there's no water in the prop and things like that on land. But it really helps that if someone doesn't know what they're doing, they're not just running a scooter on the counter for a long time and burning up electronics or motors. It really, because it is a self-cooling system, it does help that it is also indicating that you're in some kind of water.
Yeah. Silent operation. This is great. These are quiet. I don't know if anybody's had the piranhas in the past, but they're very noisy. And these, compared to the Piranhas, are pretty much silent, and it's nice. The new motor in these has that very silent operation, with the BlackTips and the new Cuda X as well. Very, very quiet scooters. So if you're hunting, if you're going around with a spear gun, not trying to scare fish away, that's a good point with the scooter. It's not going to have all the fish run away from you down underwater.
Yeah, and it's not just the motor. It's a combination of the motor and the electronics. It's still a brushless DC motor, which is something that like we've kept on all of our scooters, but it is definitely the deeper portion of the electronics that we're really able to kind of tune them really well. Unlike the Piranha, that even though the controller seems a little bit more sophisticated on that one, you're just not able to kind of get into the backside and really program it yourself and be able to tune those sounds out, where, like you said, there is definitely a purr to the Piranha. It's not a silent scooter at all. So it is kind of nice to finally have something that you can video with and you don't only hear the scooter.
Right. Can you talk a little bit about the programming of the BlackTips, on how we can program the different settings in the scooter itself?
Yeah, so the BlackTip is made with an OpenVESC software. So while there is some areas of it that we kind of definitely discourage away from messing with, which would be, some of the thrust and some of the motor settings, the really cool thing is you can still program how many gears you have, what the percentage of those gears is. You can, like I said earlier, you can decide to actually not engage the safety start. A lot of people that maybe are trying to just jump and go really fast, sometimes cameramen, things like that are really trying to catch something in an instant. People that are racing, sounds crazy, but it's going on every day. Things like that, you can kind of customize those things to your needs. 8 gears for a lot of people is a lot. So you can go to lower amount of gears. And then you can also, start at a higher gear, things like that, not start at third. Some people like to start at first. So it's slower and more progressive. So the nice thing is it is customizable in those ways.
And how do you do that? On your computer?
On the computer, yes.
Okay.
So there's a computer interface for it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
DiveX has also made quite a few videos that is really cool. Jake, our digital creator, he spends a lot of time really getting invested in the products and really teaching himself as a new user to, kind of be like firsthand user when he's doing it. So we have a lot of videos on how to change the things, what should be changed, maybe what shouldn't, updates on all the best tool softwares for different versions of the unit. That's one thing about the BlackTip that we do get a lot of questions about. Over the 2.5 years that we've been selling the BlackTip, we've been learning because it is a completely new machine to us, new electronics, new motor. And so there has been some changes. So sometimes you'll see people that have like original ones, they'll have a little bit differences compared to the newer ones. The base of it is all the same. The shroud's the same, the motor's the same. We're just learning. So we just made little changes throughout it, which has meant that we've updated some of the software in the back end to make it a better user experience for the diver.
Okay, Jimmy, we're going to jump into how do you use the scooter for diving. And obviously, before you jump in with a scooter, you should do a pre-dive check. So can you run through how you do your pre-dive check?
Yeah, so before anything, you want to inspect the O-rings. Make sure there's going to be nothing that might cause the scooter to leak or anything like that. So the bottom O-rings, they should have a nice layer of grease on them around the tail section, and you'll feel it kind of click in when you put the tail section on. Kind of clicks into place, and that's how you know that is making a seal. You'll still be able to see that bottom O-ring from the outside, and that middle O-ring will be completely covered by the tail section itself. Once that's good to go, you get your batteries and install your batteries right into the battery compartments. And then you get your nose cone and make sure there's no debris or hair, anything around the 2 O-rings on the nose. You don't want anything to leak prior to or after you get into the water. And just like you felt that click on the bottom, you're going to feel a click on the top too. And then you'll know it is in place. And then you'll get the strap and put the strap where it needs to go and strap everything down. And as soon as you put those batteries in place, you'll see the LED screen light up for a second, and then it'll turn off till you actually engage the scooter. Now that everything is together, I like to get it, put it in the rinse bin at the dock. Make sure nothing is going to bubble or anything like that in the rinse bin, and even run the prop a little bit in the rinse bin. Make sure you have a good seal, because last thing you want anything to do is leak. So run in the rinse bin in fresh water, everything's good, we're good to go. As long as you set it up and expected your O-rings, you shouldn't leak at all. And I like to put another clip on the nose cone like this, just to be able to clip it off in the water when not using it. DiveX also just came out with a bulkhead for the scooters. It's a vacuum seal bulkhead, so you can ensure that everything is completely sealed up, ready to go. And Sierra could probably talk a little bit more about that. We don't have any on hand yet, but if you want to talk about the vacuum seal bulkhead there.
Yeah. Again, DiveXers is just trying to answer to our customers. So one of the features that we built into the newest scooter has a vacuum, what we call a bulkhead. So it's going to be added onto the scooter. And so, of course, the first thing all of our BlackTip customers wanted was the same feature. So what this is it's going to actually add a little length to your scooter. So if you have a travel, you're actually going to almost get the length of what a tech is. So you're going to get some of that buoyancy, which is going to be really nice for those owners of Travelers already. And then with tech, there is, or the tech scooter, it's going to come with weight plates and stuff in it. So yeah, you're going to add a little bit of length, but you're also going to add all these features and safety. And again, you're going to have the saltwater plates and stuff in there anyway. So it shouldn't mess with most of your trim unless you've already adjusted yours, right? And then of course it would need to be adjusted a little. But the key features to it is the fact that you're going to add it to the top of your scooter underneath your nose. It's going to have a handle for removal, and it also will have a pump gauge. And you're just going to essentially vacuum the scooter, wait your 5 to 10 minutes to make sure that you haven't lost any vacuum. And, kind of like a camera housing vacuum, make sure you haven't lost any. If you're good to go, you just stick your nose on and strap her down. With that being said, if you are an existing user, yes, it will come with a longer strap. So again, you can custom and cut that new strap down. And so that's very nice. And I know a lot of people question like, well, what if my nose leaks, or what if, or then at least you're only getting a little bit of water in between your nose and the gauge itself. And it's actually not going to go to your motor housing, and it's not going to go to your batteries, because that's the expensive part. Yeah, it's going to pretty much look just like that. It has a little bit of a lip on it, and it has a handle in the center, because that was the one thing that my CUDA X owners wanted as well. And so the BlackTip owners got it instead. But it is like, it's just going to have, it's just like a little pouch, and it's going to keep you from, after service, after changing out O-rings, being on a dive boat, things like that. It just really helps ensure that that diver is going to go in completely vacuum tight, and, you just don't have to second guess it, which is going to be really nice. I think that anyone jumping in the water, specifically salt water with lithium ion batteries, it's just always right there in the back of your mind. And if it's not, it should be. And of course we want you to have fun, but we always have to be safe. So it just is one more step to not only protect the investment that you've made to have a DPV and the batteries and all that thing, the classes that you would take additionally to be able to, be safe using a DPV, but also just protecting yourself.
So next slide is safety when using a DPV. Obviously, guys, you want to watch your ascent and descent rates. Like, you don't want to point it up at the surface, flying to the surface. But it'll move you around a lot on the bottom. So just watch going up and down. Obviously, we know never hold your breath as a diver. Very important with the DPV. Never want to hold your breath and point it up for obvious reasons, because we're all divers here. Let's see, attaching a quick release. I attach a like I said, on the nose cone. When it's not in use, I like to always clip it off in two places. That ensures that if you have a D-ring break or anything like that on your harness, then you have it clipped off in a second place. You want to always secure your equipment, make sure no hair gets in the prop, obviously, and keep your fingers out of the prop. And also just have fun with it down there, you know.
And I know that we all say keep your fingers out of the prop, which of course do that. Some of the key features to the safety stop is if anything goes in your prop at all, it's going to stop immediately. If you take any DPV course, with the exception of metal props, because there is some out there, so I'm not going to say it for every scooter. If you do have a runaway scooter, though, you can stick your hand in and it's going to stop. Of course, you want to be really careful of your tow cords and loose hair and, things like that. But if you do start to have a runaway scooter because you wrapped your cord around it, you weren't using a harness, you weren't using a D-ring, things like that, which you should always be doing, that is a way to stop your scooter, and it's not going to tear your hand off. Like I said, I can't say that for everyone, but I have been at DEMA and everyone challenged me that it would never happen, and I just stuck my hand in it, and it's I still have two hands, so we're all good. So
it won't take your hand off.
It stings. It stings. But at least it's not going to take you where you don't want to go.
And remember, if you're not diving a backplate and wing, there's also a tow harness for the scooter itself. And that tow harness basically acts as a harness, and it has a D-ring that sits right where your D-ring would for your crotch strap on a backplate and wing. And that you could use to play yourself around in a recreational style BCD. That's not in there.
No, that's not.
All right, next slide. Why use a DPV? You're going to conserve gas using a DPV and energy. You're not going to overexert. You're not going to fight your way through a current. And if you're hunting lobsters or spearfishing out here, they're great for lobster hunting because you can cover a lot more ground on the reef. And I talked about it briefly earlier. We had a lot of wrecks in the area, especially in Pompano here. And a lot of these wrecks sit next to each other, and you could scoot it from wreck to wreck and get back to where you started fairly easily. Or if you're towing a flag, you could scoot it from wreck to wreck, and the boat could follow you along with the flag. We're up to 9 wrecks on one dive so far. So it's been a lot of fun. You see a lot of different things, different animal life when going from wreck to wreck.
Yeah, some other big benefits I know people use them is sand blasters if you're looking for good stuff. You can tow a buddy around too, so new divers or things like that, so you can tow someone too. And another thing is a lot of people are also using them for ocean cleanup. So if that's something that is a passion to you or something that you want to get into, there is a lot of DPV users that are now using them for ocean cleanup, which of course is awesome because we all want to keep diving. We want to be able to, keep our families diving and our ocean looking beautiful. So that's just this key feature that keeps on giving.
Care for the DPV. After you're done diving, you want to make sure you rinse it with fresh water. Make sure you don't have any sand in the trigger. The trigger, just like with any gear, if you get sand in it, it's going to not work accordingly. So you want to make sure it's rinsed with fresh water completely. You don't want to drag it through the sand. Be careful when you're on the dive. Dragging it through the sand is just going to not extend the life of your DPV. You want to care for your DPV correctly. I like to rinse it down with fresh water, and then once completely rinsed down, I'll let it dry out for a little bit, and then I'll remove the nose cap. And you never store the batteries inside of the DPV. Your batteries will go bad, and it just drains your batteries, and it's not good for any of the electronics if you store the batteries in the DPV. Think about servicing it annually too, replace all the O-rings on here, grease all your O-rings, make sure they stay greased, because you don't service those O-rings. If you get a nick or anything in the O-rings, that could cause a failure on your O-ring there. And definitely fresh water. I'll run it in the rinse bin. I'll turn it on. I'll run the prop in the rinse bin after I'm done with my dive. And make sure the prop spins out. Make sure there's no sand or salt water inside the shaft there too. Want to add anything to that?
The only thing I would add is if you are, somewhere that's like high salt, you're getting it in a, like you said, like in a rinse bin or, hosing it down and then, running that prop and then even putting some air in that trigger area, things like that, that'll just help salt water not to build up. Like running the prop, you can get the water out of there, but making sure that you're clicking and running your trigger as well a couple times, or even blowing some air down in there. That really does help. And anyone who maybe, like, if you're not able to like let it dry out all the way, like he said, because of time or things like that, another key thing that a lot of BlackTip users will do is they'll actually tip it on its side and then pull the nose off, so you're not getting any residual water when you do pull it. So that's something you can do too. And then don't store your DPV on its side, because you will slightly be able to warp your shroud, where it's not the end of the world and you are able to, sand your blades and things like that to make sure they're not hitting, but it's just care, right? So caring for it, maybe sitting straight up or putting it on some kind of stand where you're just not warping that shroud and keeping it on its side.
Training. It's always good to take a class. You never just want to jump in and not take a class before using a new piece of equipment. So get proper training on it. And of course, he has instructors here that can train South Florida or wherever you may be in the world. There is training available for a DPV course and to learn the basics on how to use a DPV. The class entails a classroom session and then 2 open water dives, and pretty much goes over the safety of using it and some of the things that we've talked about today, like cleaning, setup, and all of that stuff. And that brings us to questions.
All right. We do have some questions coming in real quick. Someone asked a question about the difference between having it in saltwater versus freshwater. They were wondering, how do air and water temperatures affect the performance of the batteries? Is there an effect there?
I don't know, Jimmy, have you had to deal with, I know that you guys are.
I've had probably the same performance in cold water as I have in warm water. I've had it up in the Great Lakes and it ran just as good as it did here in Florida. So it's been, I haven't noticed any kind of a difference in battery performance.
Okay.
Yeah. We have Arctic divers that are diving it. Sometimes they might get a little less, but I think it's going to be so little that you're not really going to notice. It would be someone who really, really, really is running it really hard. But keeping it cool, right? Like you do have a motor that's supposed to be, water cooled and things like that. So, I guess that it all kind of is relevant to the batteries in the motor, but it shouldn't be a huge difference.
And most things that I'm talking about are based off the 12 amp hour batteries. I know you could use the 9 amp hour batteries too. And you will see less performance out of the 9 amp batteries. Obviously, you won't get the burn time, but with the 12 amp batteries, I could go on a normal 2-tank dive trip. And with that 2-tank dive trip, I won't burn out the scooter at all. It'll still have battery juice at the end of the day. So, yeah.
So you guys are talking about the temperature. So, doesn't have a rating, but is there depth ratings for each of these scooters?
Yeah, there definitely is. The depth rating for the tech version is 400. And then for the exploration, it is less with the extra sealing surface of the exploration. And so for the exploration, it is going to be 260. So, it's significantly less. But I don't know a ton of divers. I know that there definitely is divers going, deeper than 260. But it should cover a full range of divers, but it's definitely something you want to consider when you are purchasing a DPV.
You guys are talking about towing someone, but is there like a tow weight that we should be aware of?
I mean, as long as you're pretty trim. I mean, I know that like sometimes people are, towing a buddy in a scooter or, something like that, which I mean, I would just kind of like when you're towing your friend's truck, take it slow and steady, same kind of thing. I don't think that that's hugely different. But you should still be able to get, somewhere where they need to be if that's what you're doing. Usually it's emergency situations, or it's just like, maybe 2 free divers are going, things like that. That's going to be a lot less than like a tech diver in full gear with a scooter and, all those kind of things. But it's that same idea, if you're towing someone out, take it slow and steady.
You don't want to tow 2 tech divers in full tech gear, and if you see it struggling a little bit, and don't boost it up to speed 8 and then it might slow down a little bit because it's just trying to say, hey, we're on speed 8 right now. Let's not burn up that motor or anything like that. And then you boost it up back to speed 8. Yeah, you're going to probably have some issues. But I've towed people in doubles, and from one end of a wreck to the other end of the wreck, speed 5, 6, and it's been completely fine.
Yeah, I mean, just like your car or anything else, we're not going to run anything in the red zone. That's kind of what I tell people when they're like, well, I mean, I went to 8th gear and then it kind of cut me back and I went back to 8th gear. I'm like, well, how many times do you redline your car in one running? You know what I mean? And you don't service it in between. Like, so think about it in those kind of manners. We try not to redline our vehicles. Like, let's do the same thing with our DPVs while we're in the water trying to, have fun.
Yeah, be smart about it.
I don't know if this is giving away a training tip, but if you are someone who wants to go to the wreck and then you want to do some penetration, are you going to be able to go into the wreck with the scooter, or what do you do with the scooter if you want to go in?
So you can, certain wrecks, if it's big enough area, you can swim or even scooter straight through a wreck if you could see light through the other side and whatnot. But a lot of times I'll take the scooter, I'll tie it up and secure it to the wreck itself. And once it's secured to the wreck itself, I'll go in and obviously remembering where the scooter is at, and then just come back to the scooter. Very important though, make sure your name is on your scooter and make sure it's labeled accordingly, because if we have multiple scooters out there, you want to make sure you are grabbing your scooter. So a lot of people put decals, put your name on it, phone number on it. If you lose your scooter, that's a good way to get it back. And little things like that. If you do drop a scooter or leave it in an entryway in a wreck, make sure it's secured.
Sierra, you talked about that vacuum bulkhead. They wanted to know, is it available now or is it going to be next year?
So it's already available. It was released on the 1st of October. So we started taking pre-sales then. We're still let's just give it about 4 weeks out from the first shipping date. Everything will ship from the first order that was received. Just like anything else, we just send to the first person in line. But we still have a few left from the first batch. We decided to machine a couple more because they sold out so quickly. So I think there's a little less than 20 left, but and that'll be in the first batch. And then after that, it would probably be another 6 weeks.
Jimmy, what's the proper way to carry the scooter when you're not in the water, like to the boat, and then where you put it when you're on the boat?
Well, it's got a nice little handle on here, right here. I'll usually just throw it over my shoulder and walk to the boat like this. So I've seen people make different scooter stands out of wood and all that for on the boat, and have a stand where you can sit it like this. They custom make stands, and or I'll usually just sit mine upright like this, or slide it under the bench next to my crate so it's secured on the boat.
And about how much does that weigh?
The scooter itself, with the batteries, I don't know the exact weight, but I want to say maybe 20, 25 pounds.
Okay.
If that.
The reason why we're asking is because when you're getting on the boat and then when you go to get in the water, are you asking divers to jump with this, or can you hand it in? What's the procedure there?
I've seen both done. if you do jump with it, I always make sure the main force of getting into the water is not exerted on any of the O-rings, and I'll hold the scooter up a little bit, or I'll normally have it in front of me. I'll fall back into the water, so the scooter kind of falls almost on top of me, but and doesn't take that brute force of the water now hitting it on against the O-rings.
Okay, this might sound weird, but how do you hold it underwater? Because there's a handle. Do you hold it up like you're driving, and then, or do you hold it to the side?
Well,
what's the proper way?
If you've seen a few of those pictures that we had in, and especially this last picture right here, just have it out in front of you, and the leash that is on the scooter takes most of the force from it pulling you, and then I just have my hand on the handle and the trigger, which just kind of is out in front of you.
Okay. Mm-hmm. I didn't know if there was like a correct way of holding it.
No, I mean, you don't want to like it to be too far. This leash on here is completely adjustable. So you want it to sit comfortably in front of you so you can still trim out in the water, but you don't want it to be too far or too close to you, because then you're going to go through the water like this, and that's not going to be trim or comfortable to ride the scooter itself.
Awesome. All right, guys. Well, we are at the portion of the presentation where it is time to do our raffle. So I'm going to go ahead and bring in our raffle random name picker. So, guys, what we do for the random name picker is we get your, hold on, there we go. We get your guys' name from when you register on our Eventbrite, and then we stick them in this random name picker, and we're going to see who the winner is. So hopefully you're going to come in and get one of these scooters so you can go diving. So let's see who wins a free dive trip here in South Florida for a 2-tank dive. The results are Wendy Resnick. Wendy, you are a big winner tonight. Give us a woohoo in the comments section. Let us know that you are super excited to go diving. All right. Let me bring us all back in. Oh, you know what? It's better you can see me here. There we go. All right, guys. If you have any more questions, like that last slide said, you can go ahead and find the DiveX on Facebook and on Instagram. And you guys want to give your contact information?
You can look me up at Florida Technical Diving. If anybody has questions, you're more than welcome to ask me locally, or Dive Extras. I know you guys are on Facebook, Instagram as well.
Yeah, anyone's more than welcome to, email me on our website. My information's there. Or, on DiveX Scooter Group's a great page. Anyone can join, ask lots of questions. If you're looking for a DPV, that's really good too. Again, go into your local shops, making sure, that it is the thing for you. And then Dive Extras also wants to say that I'll throw in some t-shirts to our winner tonight. So get us her contact information and some sizes. And, love to say hi as well.
Yay. So you get to go dive and get a t-shirt. Woohoo. Yay, Wendy. All right, guys. Go ahead. Come on into 4C. See the guys. They'll tell you a little bit more about these scooters. You can hold them in your hands, and let's get one and let's go diving. Thanks, you guys, for a great presentation. See ya. And hopefully you guys will tune in next week for another great presentation. See ya. Okay.